My name is Maria. Thank you, Liana. I will continue. VR design comes in all shapes and sizes, and application may have no interface and could be based completely on a 3D virtual world, or it could be flat design. But what unites all of them is that you completely immerse the user by creating this environment, and it affects most of their senses. So for this, you really need to think what would be better for user, because it's not about just seeing something, but it's also about feeling something. The best experience is where user forgets that they're in the virtual reality, and I think you saw some of these funny videos about users who are first time in VR and they can just forget that they're in VR. So this is a good example of maybe good experience. Okay, so to create this good experience, you need to take into account some observations. Like it is important to not force users to do something from the very beginning. Give users some time to orient themselves. It takes about 10 seconds for each user to just understand what is going on, if the environment changed or the body changed. So don't force the user to do something. The more user get used to VR, the less time they need to orient. And also, this is a big problem, I think, for most of UX designers and developers, that users, they are just not read instructions. They are trying to push every button or just trying to orient with the environment themselves. And they will do anything that you just cannot expect. So if you develop the environment, you should notice that if you have or they will think that this environment is broken, and they will just do something that you should expect if you are working on this game or application. And also, this is a problem that people don't have a perfect sense of their physical self. And in VR, it's always the biggest problem. So because of that, all interactive elements should create a sense of engagement, because people should feel that they push the button, or they should hear that button is working. Because if they cannot hear or see that, they will be just observers. It's okay if it's just playing some video, but even if it's video player, users can manage something. So you should try to help users to interact with the world. And also, you should encourage users to move around as much as they can. So you cannot control all the users' actions, and it's important to keep the freedom to explore. So every environment should be tested and should be checked that it will be not disappoint user to explore. Because of that, you should always give the user what they expect. If it is important for VR to have some familiarity. It comes from some past experience and established practices, and interactive VR is still very young, and we're really collectively figuring out what structures will work for the audience. And for games, it's mostly sandboxes. And if you develop game, you should you should allow user to do whatever he wants. It's like sandbox. But if we are talking about interface, we should not break the experience. So that's why mostly interface for games should be into the like the part of the game narrative, and you should just see some maybe tasks when you go somewhere and not in the any time. For non-games, it's easier because for non-games, user expects that this app will help them to solve something, like having meeting, doing training, and that's why they can forgive you the web view style, and adding value to the experience is the main priority. This is a good example of game sandbox. So it takes a lot of playtesting because every user could do it really in their own way, and you should test that all works before the final user will play it. And as more and more aspects of the virtual world look similar to real life, user will naturally expect the other things they behave like in the real life and extend those expectations across the simulation. And if something will be not as they expected, it could disappoint users. So I heard the talk from the creators of this game, and they just said that all users are monsters because they could do so many strange things, and they should just support every strange movement, and they was doing a lot of playtesting. Also, the reason these expectations, the reasons that we might drop out our controllers on a virtual desk that doesn't exist, or walk around a virtual table, but we could just walk. And you should think about limitations. Do not disappoint the user. Superhot is a good example of limitations for good. Every additional movement will disturb the game process, so users are trying to move as less as possible and trying to touch as less as possible. And they will be not disappointed because they cannot use some objects, or they just can see what is playable. But if, for example, the gun or shurikens will be, they will interact with them not in a natural way, it will broke the experience. For non-gaming applications, they're always focused on optimizing the workflow and adding value to the established pipelines. So developers that are working on non-gaming apps actively seek to understand the existing workflow of the users and see where we can offer some useful solutions as replacements for existing practice. And there could be much more limitations, but users understand the reason, and it's not a problem if you visiting the meetup cannot just push something or walk somewhere, because you know that this is the experience for meeting or for training. So this is the reason why users are not surprised that you cannot play with every object. About this booking experience, so what users can expect during the hotel booking process? This is a really regular process, and most of people have a lot of experience doing it on mobile or web interfaces. It's not a game, it's a real places, and you can visit them in real life. So as Uliana said, we needed to reinvent the experience because this type if you really want to feel this experience like with there right now, we did it in some kind of meditation, maybe with these soft buttons, relaxing background, supporting sitting and standing positions. And also we added some gamifications just for users to understand that they could interact with objects and maybe they would like to play with them. So it's all makes the experience smoothly and softly. Like users will be not just inspired or in a good mood after using the app, but also its possibility to have a holiday of their dreams after using these applications. So that's all from me.
Guys, before we start answering your questions, I wanted just to advertise our app. It's launched on SideQuest. If you have Oculus Quest, you can find it by vResorts Booking. It's there. It's free. Try it. We would be very glad to see your feedback.